Good evening and welcome to the Pompey Politics Podcast.
I'm Ian Tiny Morris.
And I'm Simon Sansbury. Hello, can you hear us? Someone would like to Oh, brilliant. Okay, so the sound is now coming through.
The sound is now coming through. We are live and direct, and we are ready to roll. Good evening, and welcome to the Pompey Politics Podcast. We are broadcasting live from Portsmouth Guildhall. So this is our first road trip. So first of all, we have to tip a hat to Simon, who has turned armed with suitcases of wires and microphones and stands. And after nearly an hour and a half and a fair degree of swearing, we are now up and running live. And the first thing we can let you know is that, speaking to various sources around the hall, people are telling us that the postal votes are up, but the actual turnout today has been quite low, and that appears to be borne out by the fact that we were expecting the first result through at about midnight, so we were all still reasonably relaxed and hadn't broken into the chocolate bars or sweets yet. And the person at the front of the stage has leapt up about 10 minutes ago and said they're nearly ready to return on the Hillsey ward, and has followed up just a couple of minutes later on Nelson. So we are expecting our first couple of results through. Oh, and they've just announced the final
About to
count.
start the count on Central South, so that means they're going to start the counting.
they're
So they've done
starting.
the. I mean, what they're saying there is they've done the verification.
Right, so that means the result is imminent, Simon?
And no, it should just mean that that they've moved on from validating. So what happens first is they validate that the number of ballots that they've got in the box matches the number that are checked off on the list when they're issued actually in the polling station. So that's the validation section. So they'll do that first. So so I didn't hear what they'd said before. I thought they said that they were assembling candidates to the stage, which is usually something they do before. But now it makes sense. They've panicked us a little bit. So forgive us. Yeah, because across the auditorium, which we'd be able to show you if our cameras were working, you can see. So there are people coming out with ballot boxes that are then actually being issued. So we're not count imminent at this point. So apologies.
So the
We can breathe.
panic is over. So ultimately, we are not going to get Hillsey called yet. So we're just going to take a brief break, as with all of that set up and despite all of the moisture lost, we're going to go and take a stroll throughout the historic Portsmouth Guildhall, try and find ourselves a loo, and we'll be back probably in about 5 to 10 minutes, depending on how we get lost.
Yeah, indeed. So we'll be right back. If in the meantime, do you want to take a glance at our prediction show from last night? Because we'll shortly be finding out, or over the course of the next couple of hours, we'll be finding out just how wrong we are. So let's see how that goes.
think in such a generation as well, where a lot of us do self-doubt ourselves, I think it's actually been really lovely to see excellence in the game. Um, because I think in your head it's so easy to think, oh, one or two people vote for me, because we're so used to being in this behaviour now where it's so easy to just doubt your ability, doubt who you are, and question who you are. And I think it's actually been really nice to go through the whole process and learn and actually connect and just doing it as yourself. I mean, that's the most beautiful thing about it. Just, I could never hide how crazy I am, and I take absolute pride in that, because that's what makes me. That's what we want to do in the first place.
Absolutely. And Jacob, you must be a very tired man, very active on social media. Again, I thought your real name was in fact Jacob, short for Fratton, and you had it changed. So how's that experience been for you first time out?
I think being an 18-year-old full-time student and doing been stressful, been busy, but I've done all I can and more. So the results are in the hands of the electorate. They've done their part. We'll just see them.
I just say as well, when I'm so young, that's definitely something you should be proud of. Chuck it on every single CV application you have. At 18 years old, I didn't know what I wanted to do there. You know.
And I think it's fair to say, Jacob, that when you started the campaign, you weren't eligible to vote when you first started campaign.
So I sort of, I think close to being 18,
Yep.
I became an independent. I did my bit that I could, sort of just being around, talking to friends and family, saying, hey, I'm thinking of running. And then when I turned 18, registered to vote, sent it to George Madgett that I'd done it, and come 27th of March, or whatever the nomination process day was,
Yep.
became an official candidate.
Marvellous. So again, first time at the count, so it's my first time here as well. You can feel the. It's amazing that I don't know whether you're picking up on some of the the £1,500 allowance online abuse. It's not something that, I think, Simon, you've had something in the past, which is, the people that get into local politics are, not doing it for the fame or the fortune, are they?
Yeah, well, there's a candidate in this election that told me that there are two types of people involved in politics, and those are frustrated social climbers and frustrated social workers. So and some people might be kind of like a mix of the two, I guess. I'll just say that I apologise. The sound through all of that actually kind of cutting out. So our audience weren't kind of getting it. So I apologise to both of you. But just in case our audience, hopefully that they can now hear, because I can see us. So yeah.
As a musician, I feel like if something doesn't go wrong, well, are you doing it right?
Absolutely, we should worry.
Well, there's certainly a bit of that afoot. So just in case it didn't come through when we introduced him in the beginning, we're joined currently with Jacob Shaw, who's the candidate for Fratton for Portsmouth Independence Party, and Mariam Daniel, who's the Labour candidate in Hilsey. So it's first time round for both of you. How is it feeling so far? How does it feel at this point? Mazzy, if you want to go first.
I think it's just sort of, it sounds really funny, a funny word to use in politics. I think I kind of just feel in at ease. I think there's this concept of where you can sit and regret the past, and things that you cannot change. You can sit and dwell on the future so you don't enjoy the now. I think what you find as well is sometimes that other different kind of rosettes will go say hello to different kind of rosettes. Because that's just what they do. It's just a normal thing. Because when I was there with doing that at polling stations today, it was quite funny because even out the window, you think that people who are councillors, particularly people who are running, and I think a lot of good conversation comes out as well. Like I've had some people say some really nice things, what I wasn't expecting. Even though they might not have been part of the whole branch of what I stand for, I've had some people coming to tell me that they actually believe what I say, and they actually believe I can do a good job for Hilsey, which is why I ran. I won't say why I'm running, but it's open why I ran.
Jacob.
Yeah, I think when it comes to the roller coaster of emotions, I've had my cry. I've done what I can and more. I've had people from across the different parties.
I don't know if we've got an issue with that microphone. Hang on a second. Let me just pass you mine.
Oh, got the wires. It's fine. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely been a roller coaster of emotions. I've cried, but I've also been happy with what I've done. I've had people from across the parties say you've done brilliantly. I've had Liberal say it, Labour say it, Tory say it. Yeah, because up until 10 o'clock tonight, it was very battlegroundy. But as soon as we came into this hall, it was well done. You've done great.
And I think that's really important, because for me, for both of you, you're two people who have, been prepared to take that step forward and put yourselves out there. And I think in the conversation that we missed, Mazzy, you touched on the fact that, seeing that X beside your name was actually quite emotional in terms of, somebody was, more than just two people were prepared to pick me.
I think it makes you realise as well, no matter how much self-doubt you have in your mind, that you're doing okay, and I think I just ran the campaign as me, and I think it's actually quite an honour to be able to have stood for Hilsey. I stood. So funny going between present and past tense. Oh my God. If you heard that, that's just me not sitting on a chair properly and almost falling backwards. And still having a smile on my face, because I feel like that's what politics is sometimes. It's like the table leg being knocked out from under you, and you're like, it's fine, we'll just pick it up, we'll make new cups of teas. And I feel like that's sort of what the energy is in here kind of today. It's definitely a hubbub, it's definitely a buzz. And in a really funny way, it's actually really beautiful and dystopian to see. If you saw the process, it's crazy.
Yeah, and I completely agree with all of that. The buzz in here right now is a mixture of emotions. I've got people who are loving it. I've got people who are like, "Oh no," I was going to swear then, but I thought we're live. And then you've got people in between, like me. Like when I've seen X's next to my name, I've been like, "Thank God for that."
Yeah.
And then when I've seen other parties stack up, I've gone, "Oh God."
Yeah.
So, but when the fatten count starts is when the real action happens, really.
But then I think, to be fair,
Real action happens.
yeah.
Like,
Right. I think I think when it comes to Portsmouth and politics, I think it's funny because we do have some wards that are definitely bigger, but I think it's actually beautiful to have people from every party standing in every ward, because every ward matters, and it kind of so. I was born in Luton, and I like to say that I'm an expat to Portsmouth. I came and I never left. And I think it's funny sort of comparing the two and the different poverty levels between the two and what's accessible between the two. And I think even within wards, you see the difference. And that's the funny thing, because I think the whole of Portsmouth itself is beautiful. I think Hilsea is beautiful. I think every ward deserves the best candidate for that ward. Every resident deserves the best candidate for that ward, because every ward matters. That sounds so funny to say.
Absolutely. So I guess we need to head towards that $64,000 question. Both of you, to be fair, you were not the favourites to win in your ward. So
Me, not a favourite? No.
Yeah,
Not like I got bullied before.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's not funny.
So if you were, let's not jump ahead, but if you weren't successful tonight, will you both be back next year?
I'm nodding my head here, but I definitely, and I will run again until I get that seat. For me, it's not about giving it one shot and going, not for me. This is what I want to do. I'm 18, running for council, and I'll run until I'm 50 if it means I get the seat. For me, it's
50's not old, Jacob. Steady on, son.
no comment.
Yeah.
Hang on, thanks very much. Cheers for that, mate.
How to offend the hosts? Good lord.
Well,
But,
Oh, you
Yeah.
guys, you guys love me really.
I was going to say, when you get to 50, you can do podcasting instead.
Yeah,
So
sounds like a
we haven't
plan.
got the energy for all the cut and thrust, have we, Simon?
No, it's it tires me out too much delivering all those leaflets, knocking on all those doors. I just don't have the knuckles for it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What about yourself, Mazzy?
I would definitely run again, and I would definitely run for Hilsea again if I don't win this year. I feel like I learned more even running this year. I'm a little bit of a nerd sometimes. So I'm like, yeah, my brain is stuffed with information, and I hate sometimes being like, I don't know everything. I think that's part of the beauty of not knowing everything, not knowing if you do win or don't win, not knowing if you've got a year to prepare yourself or not. And I think also it's the people. And I think as someone who did grow up from 3 years old in a council flat, it's always been about the people. For someone who has come from a background that hasn't been quite as comfortable as other people, it's always been about the people, no matter what sort of level they're at, because the people really do deserve the best. And I think that's what candidates here are really trying to do for those wards, trying to deliver the best. And I know that's what I'm trying to do under Labour for Hilsea, whether I win this year or not. And if I don't, then I'm just going to have to show the Hilsea residents that I am serious about them and that I do want to make a change, and that it sounds really funny to say, I don't want a tick because I'm under Labour. I want a tick because the residents know me and believe in me. That's why I would want a tick, because they know what I can do for them.
Well, bless you both. Thank you for coming to talk to us tonight. And
No worries.
Also, big cheers to Ian and to Simon for even being here live tonight in the Guildhall with us at the count. It's really great to have you guys with us in person as well.
Oh, bless you. Thank you so
guys.
much. It's very kind. We're here. Hopefully we shall keep our viewership through the night as it goes on. But thank you very much, both, and have a good evening. And we'll see you later.
Bless you both.
All the best. Thank you. So yeah, now I've got two microphones in my hand. So just to kind of
We've just gone quiet there to try and hear what's being said up front. So,
But we didn't hear.
to be fair, at the moment the announcements are a little bit haphazard. We think that no results are ready to be called yet, but we have been getting some whispers and scuttle from those who are out and about on the floor. So, without revealing any of our sources,
So what's the scuttlebutt, Ian?
so the main message I think is that turnout is down. There are some shocks expected. We must have had fantastic viewing figures or listening figures for last night's episode, as it appears that messages had gone around the political community, and there are a couple of people who seem very keen to tell us that some of our predictions were quite wrong.
Yeah.
I think we're going to see a couple of shocks this evening.
Yeah, that may well transpire that way. So it's interesting kind of seeing that. So just to in absence of us being able to do any video, so what we've got basically is the auditorium is kind of set up with essentially kind of two horseshoes, basically arrangements of tables, and on each tables they're split into the different wards, and that's where the different counts have been going on. So what's been happening through the evening, through the verification part, and indeed through the counting part that's going on under. Okay, so normally the candidates or their agents or other members of their political campaign usually tend to watch the verification of those ballots, because what's handy then is, as you're seeing that verification take place, which is essentially a checking that the number of ballots that are there is the same as the number of ballots that have actually been handed out. Sometimes you might get the odd one short. That's because for some reason someone takes theirs home with them instead of putting it in a ballot box. But by and large, that's kind of the check that's done. But as that's done, you can also get a glimpse of how the votes are coming out. And if you 5-bar gate that, you can tend to get sort of a picture of actually how the vote's going before the actual count is, which is kind of just a bit of the mechanism of it. The announcement that happened just then while we were speaking was that they were talking. They were just asking some candidates to gather to look at some ballots. So as that progresses, they'll be looking at some. Looking at some to see whether they're
soiled, I think is the word.
Yes, to see whether they're being soiled. So sorry, I think that was just Russell. That was I've just kind of lost my train of thought then.
No worries. So I think we are in the situation where I think our original prediction had been that the first results would be declared at 12:30. So we are poised now and hoping that some results will come through. And I think one of the things that's come out in the people that we talked to is that there have been some strange shock boxes in one of the wards where we were expecting it to be a PIP Conservative closely run race. One of the candidates spoke to us and said, well, one of the boxes that got opened, Labour won the box, and threw everyone into disarray for a brief moment. But I think this is one of the things we're picking up this evening, is that things perhaps may not have been as straightforward as we looked at last night.
No, indeed. And I see we've got one of the questions from the comments is, when time are we expecting the first result? So as you were saying, yeah, the council said in their information that they sent us that they were expecting to be able to declare the first result about 12:30, and the last result, well, basically everything will be concluded by 2:30. So hopefully
2:30 if it runs smoothly. Though we've already had a couple of little inside tips that a couple of wards may well go to a recount. They're looking that close already. So unless somebody runs away with the last few boxes, we might be in for a long night, Simon.
Yeah, if there's close run things, if those are high turnout wards, if that's a ward where a candidate can ask for a recount. So if it's a particularly close one and they want that recount, then they can actually have that recount. So we'll kind of cross that bridge when we come to it. We're just trying to listen to what this announcement is.
And in terms of the evening itself, first time that that I've been to account, it feels rather surreal that it's after midnight and it's a bustling environment. The microphones are extremely good, so you can't pick up all the background noise, but you've got candidates milling about. We just spoke there to Jacob and Mazzy. I think it would be fair to say, Simon, there are some pretty weary people out there this evening.
Indeed, I mean, don't forget, most of these campaigners and the candidates would have been up very, very early this morning, probably putting leaflets through people's, reminding them that it's polling day, and also the other thing to contend with this year is obviously is reminding people that they needed to take photo ID to be able to vote. So we'll kind of get out the vote apparatus that is undertaken by parties just to make sure, so the people that they've canvassed that they know are going to be voting for them, they want to make sure that they get out and they actually do go out and cast that vote.
So it does feel like we might be moving towards the business end of the evening.
I think once it starts, they'll be coming thick and fast. I think.
Yeah, the Master of Ceremonies, I think it's their official title up there, is calling candidates up left, right, and centre. So we will wait for that first result, and then we will bring them to you as they come off. We've already tried to tap up some of the candidates and invite them to come and speak with us as and when their results are called, and we will remain poised until the results come through.
We'll just kind of pass comment and as things kind of happen. As we were talking earlier on, Councillor Simpson came up from Hilsey, but unfortunately I didn't get a chance to kind of feed him into the conversation. So our apologies to Russell for kind of not welcoming into the conversation there. But yeah, this is kind of that weird bit of the evening where things are moving forward. We're not quite at the point where results start to happen. It's when the results start to happen. But the people observing, they're actually watching the count take place, actually at table level, so they're actually observing the ballots. They've got an idea about how these things are going. So you can kind of see from, to be honest, you can see from the looks on some of the faces as to how that's going. And coming up to speak to us at the moment is Claire. Hi, Claire.
Claire. We're good. We're broadcasting live through the night, and camera is not on. So
Yeah, don't worry, the camera's not working.
Oh,
And that microphone, try the microphone, see if that works.
hello.
Hello, we're getting you. How you doing? How's the evening going for you?
I've just been sat with the Lib Dems actually. I was on a polling station from 7 this morning till 2. Had a short break, back on there, and then did some locking up with Susie.
Okay, so
Locking up sounds really inappropriate.
It does. And it's not just the way you say it. So talk us through. So what is it that you do at the polling station? What's that we can help our listeners understand?
So when you become a candidate, you have access to the electoral roll for your area, and every voter has an individual polling number, which is on your polling card. So when we knock doors to get pledges from people, it corresponds to your electoral roll. So we're taking numbers down of people that come and vote. So when we start knocking people up, as it's called, we're knocking the doors of people that said they're for us because we got those records, but they haven't actually voted for us yet. So I go along and say, hey.
Yes, yeah, don't want to trouble you, but I thought we could rely on your vote.
Yeah, exactly. So please get out the door. I'm sorry it's almost 9 o'clock, but you've got an hour to go.
Yeah.
And it's worked really well today, and I really hope it comes through for Susie, to be fair.
So does that kind of get more kind of frantic as it gets towards the close of polls at 10 o'clock? Does that get kind of a bit more desperate as the clock ticks away?
It's not, I wouldn't say desperate, but it's just we're so reliant on those people that said they were going to vote for us. And we have like an app to tell us who we've been knocking and their history and what they pledged on the doorstep and when they were last contacted, etc. So when we get there, they're quite happy to see us because they know they said they were going to vote for us. So we had a few excuses like I can't get out of the house, I'm really, really sorry. But most of it is kind of I've just got indoors, give me 2 seconds, I'm just about to leave the house again, or
I've just got back because the app didn't update quick enough, because we're sending data back to our teams.
Mhm.
Yep.
They're having to input it and then we get it back on our apps.
Okay, so it's not quite an instantaneous kind of update.
No,
Yeah.
it is a mission, but the Lib Devs have it down to a fine art. I think they're just very good at it. Their sheets all look very professional, and they just have someone literally entering data all day,
Mhm.
which is probably the most boring job of all the jobs. I'd rather be sat on a cold polling station, which I was. About midday, it was horrible, but it definitely tried to clear up. But then I got caught in a torrential downpour, knocking up,
Oh.
which isn't too bad.
No, no.
Obviously, one of the key things about this election is there was a lot of talk about voter ID when you were sat on that polling station.
Oh,
Did
yeah.
you see many turned away?
So two that I saw turned away. One was a woman who only had a work ID. She was like, I'm just in the area, I'll see if I can chance it. And they refused. She said she'd just come back later with an actual ID. And we had a guy, he was older and he had a college ID, but it wasn't one with a pass card, and they refused him. And he was quite upset about it, to the point where he came back later, gave back his polling card, said that he wouldn't get any other form of ID. He's fed up with it all and he's never going to vote again.
Oh dear.
But for Central Southsea, I wasn't expecting there to be problems. My issue was maybe in areas of more poverty. My friend came to vote and she had the voter authority card, you know, the one that you can apply for.
Yeah, Simon.
It's a piece
Simon
of
got
paper.
his.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got one of them.
Did you?
Yeah,
I'm-
I thought I'd test it out and see kind of how it worked, and
My
I was
friend said
quite
it was
impressed
really
how
easy
quick
to
it.
put-
Yeah, it was super quick. To be honest, it took me less than 3 minutes to do it online, and it arrived 5 days later. It was brilliant.
That's like when I applied for my provisional, it just took my passport photo and it just came in the post within like 3 days.
We've got
Okay,
a
so-
listener in the comments saying, unfortunately, our service doesn't give you us the name of the listener, but they're saying hi Claire, I'm gutted there's no camera because I wanted to see if you were wearing a cool hang on, my eyesight's completely a cool sparkly dress.
I'm not in the sparkly dress that I won the election with 5 years ago today, but I am in a vintage late 80s 2-piece polka dot. My friend called me a carton of Ribena for some reason because of my outlandish choices. But like, I
Wow.
bought this before I became a counsellor in a charity shop because I loved it so much and I couldn't pass it up, and it's not been able to fit till today.
Wow.
So I'm feeling.
Feeling in great shape.
Yeah.
And
Well, that's the dexamphetamines for the ADHD that's done that. So
So-
I'm thumbs up into the camera that's not even on.
No, it's sat there looking completely useless. So any predictions? So Charles Dickens was obviously the ward that you were a councillor for, but you stood down last year. Yeah.
I think it's close. I'm hoping he takes it. He's worked really hard. So normally during an election campaign, especially local ones, we may neglect the people that we know that don't vote because we just don't have the time to contact those people. And like, we contact all the postal voters because postal vote turnout is like nearly 100%, and
Wow.
they vote within 2 days of getting their postal ballot.
Mhm.
So we target those people first. Well, we target everyone, but they definitely get targeted.
The kind of hit rate, if you like, the return rate
Yeah,
is
the
higher.
return rate's
Yeah.
always awesome. And
The note. Sorry to interrupt you there. The comment that's just come through. Say hi to Claire from Debbie Suffield.
hello, how you doing, Debbie?
This is going to be a really inefficient conversation if that's going to work.
no, but Debbie's a regular contributor on the
And-
politics forum,
And I think she voted Cow today as well, so that's
she
cool.
was very clear that she was backing Cowlow in a post today. So how is life post councillor? Living the dream?
You don't want to know. So I don't care that people know because a lot of people do. I'm actually getting divorced.
Oh Lord.
My absolute is on the 17th of May, but it was a long time coming. We've been together 10 years. It was a whirlwind romance. We were engaged within a month. I proposed to him on a leap year on the 29th of February. We got married within the year, pregnant within the year, and had 2 lovely children. And it was lovely, but we just grew apart. We're doing life as a co-parenting, and it's working out pretty well.
Brilliant.
It was really crap at the beginning. I won't lie to you.
No.
It was awful. Because whilst we were broken up and wanted the breakup, it was pretty horrendous.
There's always
as it is.
there's logistics and emotions, and
Exactly.
neither of those are great, are they? So,
But other than that, I was going to say, just going back to voter ID, my mum popped me down a coffee, and my mum doesn't. My mum's 56. Sorry, mum, because she's probably listening now
Wow.
because she's on Facebook. So because she was 21, because I'm 35. She doesn't have a driving license or a passport, but she has her passport from the 90s that expired in 2007, and it's got my name in the back of it because you used to be able to have children in the back of your
Yes,
passport.
indeed.
Because we went to we went on a backy run to
Yeah.
France in the 90s or whatever. Not me, my
Didn't
mum,
everybody,
probably. You know,
yeah.
when you go to that Channel Tunnel, you know, where you think there'll be loads of fish that you can see, and it's just this dark hole.
No, there's definitely no fish in the Channel
My mum
Tunnel.
used that passport as voter ID today.
no. If it was,
And they let her. So the photo in her passport from 1997, she was 31, so she's younger than I am now, and she still looks the same.
Well,
So obviously she looks a little bit older, but you can tell it's my mum. So.
you might have age shamed her there, but the
I
fact
know,
that she
sorry,
still looks,
Mum. Love
the
you.
fact she still looks as good as she did when she was 31.
Exactly.
You've got to take the positives.
And she was wearing this really lovely jumper that I loved, and she loved it too. She said she wore it to Jeff. And like, it's the kind of jumper that would be like £25 in a vintage shop because it was that great. But yeah, it was like, oh my God, that jumper, I remember. And she had one of those 90s perms that everyone had for a very long time.
Oh, we don't discuss.
I didn't have one myself, but I remember that.
Triggering for me. I had sported a full patch sharp, blonde highlights included.
Snorted.
It is, no, it was a shocker. I mean, these days I'm reduced to I get to choose the grade and polish my head myself in the shower. It's and that sounds bad as
But
well.
I was just going to say,
we'll move on.
Yeah, moving on.
Claire
So
knocking people up and me polishing their head.
yeah,
We've
so
taken a turn, Simon.
Yeah.
Get the show back.
let me kind of steer. Let me go back to the comments then, just to kind of steer it if my eyesight can. So there's a comment there: partnering in crime, sounding good. Stan next year. JS. I'm not sure who that would be. And there's another one. Two different sets of comments here and on the stream on page. So we use a service called Restream that basically pushes our stream out to loads of different platforms.
Okay,
so
yeah.
YouTube, Facebook. There's our Facebook page.
Yeah.
And also to the Portsmouth politics page. And
OBS stream.
yeah, and I didn't think my computer was up to sniff to kind of do it all in software.
Yeah.
So basically we use that, and Restream collates the comments that are actually coming from the different areas. So on my screen here, I can see them from like different areas, but depending on kind of how your settings are, we may or may not actually see the identity of the person leaving the comment.
It's a bit of a never say never about standing again.
Oh, you heard it here, folks.
I sense an exclusive.
Not an exclusive.
How many other podcasts have you told?
None.
Then it's an
Well, there we go.
exclusive.
Well, it's an exclusive now at this point, you know.
I'm not actively hunting it because having the kids half the time and having to hold down a full-time job makes it a little bit difficult, especially on counsellors' wages. But if I became a counsellor, I could probably drop half my work and still be on the same money. The thing is, become a counsellor, it would just absolutely screw over my universal credit. If I became a counsellor again, I'd probably just about be worse off, or maybe a tiny bit better off, and then I'd be working full time and counsellor beside it. So I'd have to decide what I wanted to do on that respect. But after I helped Steve Pitt on the last 2 days of his election last year, and my 7-year-old daughter at the time, she's 8 now, came out knocking up, as it were, with us, and she was screaming "Vote Steve Pitt" on the door before anyone ever answered it, and then Steve won by like 37, 38 votes.
Could have been the tipping point.
Yeah,
Could
so
have been the tipping point.
and I know she wants me to get involved again. And then after we came to the count, and it looked really bad for Steve, and Steve went home, and I was depressed because, like, obviously I wasn't the counsellor anymore, and I saw Charles Dickens get handed over. And I woke up the next day, Steve had won, and then I joined the Lib Dems.
So I've just twigged that the JS is of course Jeanette Smith, your previous partner in,
I
and
miss Jeanette.
Portsmouth
set the
Progressive
in-
People's Group.
Yeah, set the independent trend, which
Yeah.
others have followed.
Yeah, I have mixed opinions about the Portsmouth Independent Party. So, I like Cal's way of independent. I like the way that he's maybe used Palestine colours on his election material and his rosette, like the green and red, for instance. I like the fact that he's been contacting people that may have never voted before and encouraged people to go and vote, and got really good testimonials from people that he's helped with casework that him and Kirsty do all the time. And that's my kind of independent, definitely. Like, you can ask any councillor at the moment about how hard Cal works for the council. Even when he was leader of the Labour group, he was relentless, and he still is now. He puts a lot of time and effort into it, and I literally just maybe put about a quarter of the effort that he did in. And so you can imagine how great his work is. And he deserves to win again tonight because he is a true champion for Charles Dickens.
We shall wait and see. And
that's the kind of independent I do like. And I don't understand. I know that the Portsmouth Independent Party have to be under a party moniker for a polling slip. But what I don't understand when they get a free vote is like what happens when you're writing a budget. What if you're in a coalition, or what if you're a ruling party? You can't have a free vote during a budget because you're the ones writing it, right?
It's an interesting dynamic.
It's an interesting
what
point.
We're seeing is, I think the Isle of Wight is there's an awful lot of independence there. I was talking to somebody today, and I think there's a belief this year that Basingstoke is going to go from no overall control to independent control. So I guess other councils have made it work somehow.
I think George Badrick, who's the leader of the Independent Party, took a good chance. Obviously, he's a businessman, and there is money coming in to help support these people, because letters cost a lot of money. Posting out to everyone takes a lot of time and effort. And I've donated to Carol's campaign, for instance, and that might get me chucked out the Lib Dems for saying that. But I helped to, like...
Maybe there aren't any members listening.
Yeah, but that's the best I could do because I was too busy. So donating money is the easiest thing to do in a campaign situation if you want your candidate to win. But I'm torn about the Independent Party. I feel ideologically, I know they're independent, but I feel like they might swing more to the right than we realise.
Well, we look at the voting record, and as you know, we scrutinise every. We don't attend the council meetings because, frankly, life is too short for both of us to do that.
No, but I end up listening to the
You do end up
bloody
listening
live
to them,
stream.
and to be fair,
I miss watching. I miss being a part of them, and I used to watch them before I was a councillor and sit upstairs. But obviously, I work hard to do that.
No.
But
and I think what we're both comfortable with. If one of us has to watch the whole arrangement, then it probably should be Simon. I think we're quite comfortable with.
They used to be a lot longer when I was on the council, and that wasn't because of me. It was because people were still fighting each other at that point. I think people have chilled out a bit more now.
No,
and they're not as, because when I joined Labour, I feel like it was very like we should not like the other parties at all. And obviously, I was F the Tories, as you well know. But it
you
got to
realise
the
how
point,
nice some of us were.
maybe, of course. But like, it was more the fact that I would
have the candidates, please, for the Nelson Ward on the stage.
Ooh.
I guess
That sounds like they're about to
this
call
should be an
Nelson.
easy Lee
So
Hunt
should we get a
moment.
quick selfie while we're...
Of course.
Yay.
Are you hoping to get interviews with winning candidates? Lee should be popping up.
Well, we will. And again,
I don't know what the result is, but I'm assuming it's Lee.
so when we looked at the prediction show yesterday, we both had Nelson pretty high on our list. I think, was Nelson top 3, Simon? You've probably got a spreadsheet somewhere.
I have got a spreadsheet, but I daren't touch anything on my computer at the
No,
moment.
well, don't touch nothing.
So,
I think we both confidently declared retain for Lee Hunt. So,
Yeah. Very popular
Yeah.
councillor, very well known, and like Nelson has half a Buckland as well.
I think we described him as Lee the Pavement Pounder. Known for his
Any more candidates?
Lots of people get his name wrong in meetings, and I hope it's deliberate. You know, like the Jeremy Hunt name wrong.
Well,
I won't say it.
No.
we'll gloss over that. And we are-
PG.
PG. It's after the watershed, but family show. We've always
People are going to be listening.
we've always kept it clean.
You can have the odd S word, but nothing else
Yeah,
after that.
no.
Swear
So-
words in our
I'm
podcast.
trying to figure out who's on stage. I guess that's a Green candidate, Lee, and another person. I have no idea.
That'd be Duncan Robinson.
Is that
Yeah.
independent?
that's
Yeah. So Duncan
I don't
Robinson
Who's
Um,
is
the
the
guy in the white shirt?
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we'll
There we
proceed.
go.
not sure, but we've so Duncan and
Nelson Ward and I, David Williams, the returning officer.
Lee both took part in the Nelson hustings.
Here noticed that the number of votes recorded for each candidate is as follows: Nicholas John Doyle, Trade Unionists Coalition,
yeah.
19.
Hey.
Robin Stanley Head, Labour 498. Lee John Hunt, Liberal Democrats, 1,030.
Well done,
Duncan Stewart Robinson, the Green Party candidate, 121.
Lee. That's a modest effort.
Kerry Ann Swan, the Conservative Party candidate, 323. Henry Vin James, 4. Portsmouth Independent, putting Nelson residents first, 169.
Good. Sorry.
There were 6 ballot papers spoiled for voting for more than one candidate, and there were 9 being unmarked or wholly void certainty. The turnout was 21.34%.
It's always been low in Nelson.
Not that low.
Lee John Hunt is duly elected to Nelson.
So we have to result in, not a surprise, Lee Hunt, and I was with sums in my
First of
brain.
all, I'd like to thank all the
We'll listen to what Lee Hunt's got to say.
for this substantive vote tonight that returns me, and I'm very pleased to be able to continue working hard for the residents of Stanshall, Tipner, Buckland, and North End. I'd like to thank my agent, Cole, and our fantastic Liberal Democrat family for all the support that they have given us, and my partner Richard for putting up with me during these since last June, actually, in the campaign. But I'd also like to thank everybody in our council group, because we work very hard indeed to right thing for the people of Portsmouth. And I think they have shown their confidence in us to help us keep moving Portsmouth forward. So I would also like to thank our officers of the council too, the local government officers who also work so hard to ensure that the policies that we bring forward are enacted in the best interests of Portsmouth. So thank everybody involved in the count, everybody who looks after us, and to my board colleagues, Leo and Jason, for helping me get this win tonight. Thank you all very much, and commiserations to those people who have worked very hard but have not won tonight. Thank you all very much.
So Simon, I don't know if you were noting down the numbers there, but in my brain, that was about 50%.
48%.
Candidates and the agents for the Nelson will be dealing with potential damage for votes.
Milton has been the ward I've been most nervous about.
So when we did the show last night, we both had Milton as the closest ward of all the 14, and it's on a knife edge as to which way it was going to.
It's the one that I've had the feeling about, the uneasy feeling, which is kind of.
Well, having declared your allegiance Liberal Democrats,
Yeah.
then I think that is. Paula Ann Savage has been a candidate in
For quite a while.
Milton for at least years and
I
worked
would
very
love-
heavily with Let's Stop Aquin. So
Exactly.
I think and there is also always an element of, as long-standing council leader, the kind of anti-establishment, let's vote for change, could come into play. But
I think so, but
I'm fairly certain that Milton is going to be one of the last to declare with a
Well, if they're doing
recount.
spoilts now,
Well, we shall have to wait and see. Simon, are you analysing like mad now, or just staring into the middle distance?
No, I'm craftily copying the results page off of Portsmouth City Council's website so I can put that up onto the live stream.
So does that give us the percentages live?
Yeah.
So what was the percentage Lee Hunt turned in?
So Lee had 48%.
I said I thought it was nearly 50. That
Mhm.
there you go, well done.
Robin Stanley for the Labour was 23%.
See, Labour have had it before. One of the ferrets had it, didn't they?
Long time ago, I think.
Yeah, and it was one of the ones that went in the UKIPpening of 2014. So it is ripe for independent rule, but because of the
Ladies
working
and
class
gentlemen,
vote.
please have the candidates for the Cotton Award on the stage.
Now, the Cotton Award is one where both Simon and I said that we thought this would be a narrow Conservative win. We had picked up through the evening that it was going to be close, so this one looked like it was going to be two-horse race between Pip and the Conservatives. So it'll be interesting to see which way this one goes. Now, I'm guessing by the fact that they're declaring early that the winning margin is not going to be that tight.
And the Tory guy, who I have no clue who he is, looks happy.
So Spencer Gardner,
Is that his name?
Yeah. So
Raymond run last year as well.
So Raymond was in Cockney last year and narrowly lost out to Ben Swan, where Spencer, I believe, ran in Nelson last year.
He did, yeah.
Conservative, so it's moved across.
Upgraded.
Got
to do the donkey work first.
Well, we shall remain poised at this point, and
so this is the results.
Here we are, the results for Cockney.
David Williams, returning officer of the election, hereby gives notice that the number of votes recorded for each candidate follows: Arif Hassan Chowdhury, Labour Party, 597. Raymond Kenneth Dent, Portsmouth Independents, putting Cockney residents first, 1,391. Nicola Rose Dodd, commonly known as Nicky Dodd, Liberal Democrats, 202.
Hey.
Spencer Roy Gardner, Conservative Party candidate, 720.
Wow. Oh, Pip took it. Oh,
James, the Green Party candidate, 112. One ballot paper was spoiled for voting for more than one candidate, and 5 for being unmarked or wholly void. Certainty, the turnout was 31.13%, and I hereby declare that Raymond Kenneth Dent is duly elected to the Cockney.
Well, we called that one wrong, didn't we?
We spoke to Raymond Kenneth spoke to us earlier. He was not confident at this point.
I'd like to thank all the people that helped me. They know who they are. I will thank them personally later on. Thank you very much.
So Raymond keeping that very short and sweet. Well, if I look at that analysis, Simon, I think at that point the Conservative vote has collapsed in Cockney.
Just a heads up, if there are any election candidates listening today, it is always good practice to thank the staff at the count and the polling stations as well.
Indeed. So again, so I think we both had Cockney wrong. We had a narrow Conservative win, and just listening to those numbers there,
Pip win, wasn't it?
you're looking. Pip had nearly double the votes
46%
of the Conservative
to 24.
46% of the vote. So that is a rampage for Pip, and if that is replicated elsewhere, I think there are some wards which we were confident about, such as Hilsey and Cosham. I don't know about you, Simon, but I'm not feeling quite as confident now as I was then.
Who did you have down for Cosham? Because I still have Labour down for Cosham.
So we both had Cosham down as a Lee with a reduced majority.
Or I think Labour might take it again.
Well, and again, it's interesting there to look at Nelson. I think that Labour's vote has gone up there with nearly 500. Again, we're having to move fairly quickly, and Simon is hammering the keyboard.
Hammer, 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 hammer.
The issue is that Labour could probably take a lot more seats if they had steady campaigners that didn't jump seats or leave the party and only run once.
Well, I think what we see, Claire, across the whole political spectrum.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, that's not something you could accuse Paula Savage of doing. It certainly. So, yeah, that was a surprise. Neither of us called Copner for Pip. It was a close run thing last year, but yeah, that's.
And to be fair, when we were talking, I was talking with Raymond Dent while we were during the setup, and his view was it would be close. And I think if he was, and I don't think it was any kind of false modesty. I think he was hopeful. I would say more than confident, but that was not close. That's a 22% winning majority.
Yeah, it's a huge swing. And the vote collapsing for the Conservative Party in general, which we might see as a national trend.
Well, I think that's where Claire, again, if we look at the last two elections, what we saw 2 years ago was very much off the back of the vaccines rollout. There was an uptick, there was a positivity.
Yeah.
The Conservative vote, it was not the case last year. There was very much a move of, there was quite a vote collapse. I think there was a feeling of optimism that there might be not a full resurgence this year, but a little bit of a bounce. But if we look at very difficult in Nelson, because the Conservatives are never really anywhere in Nelson.
No, yeah.
But I know that within Copner, that would be seen as quite a significant blow.
I think Copner fell to the like I said, I still call it the UKIPpening in 2014.
Yeah, and I guess that's kind of, again, there is an element of, the Portsmouth Independents are definitely getting their message out there as a serious alternative. That will be their
anti-establishment
fourth councillor now.
And even though I'm in the Lib Dems as an anarchist, as I like to proclaim myself, my fierce anti-capitalist self, even though I'm in the party of capitalism, probably, it's more kind of the fact that I would like to vote anti-establishment. If I choose to vote, I definitely vote in local elections. I would always vote to keep the Tories out in the general election, but if I know that the winner's going to win a massive majority, then I can go and spoil if I can.
So we've had the candidates from Hilsey now. This one again, the inside track was that Pip had done very well here, and I think you see the result mirrored Simon in Hilsey.
For the Hilsey ward.
So there's a Tory incumbent.
So yes, Scott Pater Harris has served the ward for the last 4 years. If we see the vote share go the same way as it did in Copner, things not looking so great for Scott.
Scott Pater Harris has been a councillor for 8 years, as far as I can recall.
It's definitely not his first term. He's been
current chair of licensing. He was my deputy for 3 years, and then he finally became the bride after I left. With Labour's support.
Okay, so this is the result for the Hilsey ward. I, David Williams, being the returning officer for the election.
So there's George Madwick's partner, even though I don't like to reduce someone to their status.
Daniel, Labour Party, 413.
I think Marion will be very pleased with that result.
Emma Reid Kimberly Murphy, the Green Party candidate, 99. Scott Robert Pater Harris, the Conservative Party candidate, 734. Emily Jane Strudwick, Portsmouth Independent, putting Hilsey residents first, 1,867. Peter John Williams, Liberal Democrats, 146.
Now,
there was one spoiled paper for voting for more than one candidate. The turnout was 32.11%, and I hereby declare that Emily
32.11% is an insane amount for a local election, to be fair.
yeah, Hilsey has historically had a very good turnout. Let's hear what Emily has to say.
All these candidates, the provisional result for Central South Sea, the left-hand side of the stage, Central South Sea.
See, I thought there'd be recounts and recounts, but there's been hundreds majority on these.
Well, it's almost it's a replication of what we saw in Cockner, but to an even larger extent. I'm again just trying to do the sums. I think it's more than 50% of the vote share. I don't know whether Simon, the screen is
getting the stats.
Right.
So I'm trying to do about three things at once.
No.
I'm just updating the ticker so that people can see.
So 1,800 compared to 700. That is an incredible result.
So we've had two Conservatives losing seats tonight so far, which hasn't happened in a long time.
It is. I guess there are echoes of last year when Hilsey wasn't expected.
Well, yeah. It's devastated. Do you know what? F the Tories, but not Frank.
Well, and I think there's an element of, that was a 1%, 36 to 35%. Last year, obviously, the move towards Pitt, I think I'm going to use the word collapse of the vote. I'm not sure this is going to be the last shock of the evening. I think the Conservatives were defending 6 seats in this election. And I guess the question of how many of those 6 will be left at the end of the evening is it's looking pretty bleak for them.
But yeah, I mean, 57% of the vote is.
Was it 57?
Yeah.
57. That's like a majority.
Yeah, well. That is.
Yeah, so 57% of the vote to Emily Strudwick from Portsmouth Independence Party, 23% to Scott Pater Harris of the Conservatives, 13% to Mariam Daniel, who we were speaking to earlier on from the Labour Party, to Peter Williams from the Lib Dems, and 3% to Emma Murphy from the Greens. So, yeah, we didn't see that coming.
No. And I think what it says and I guess the interesting thing will be as we move south, George. So George was obviously started in the north this year. I think stood candidates in 13 of the 14 wards, and it will be interesting to see as we move further south.
In Charles Dickens, because Cal was running as an independent.
Nope. So it will be interesting to see whether.
My question is is that does this open up Pandora's box for different kinds of independents to run? You have a Portsmouth Independence Party, but what stops you from starting a Port Progressive Party?
Well, and I think it opens it up, and again, I guess Cal is the bellwether as to whether somebody who is a good, strong independent can run on their own record. I think historically we've seen is that without a machine and a mechanism, and
you might get your first post interview because Scott's on his way over.
In which case,
hi Scott.
Scott.
How are we?
Well, probably better than you're feeling, sir. So
you're right.
I'm all right.
Politics is a tough game. If you're happy to take a microphone,
Will you give me a live microphone?
To be fair, we've been working Claire. So again,
I didn't swear.
we're not risk adverse.
Well,
So
I've been in public meetings with Claire with a live microphone. It's quite
Yeah,
entertaining.
I've said the F word.
so
You haven't.
I said hard. I said
Yeah.
hard on over parking once,
I think she has said the F word and hard on over parking before. Yeah.
and
So-
spunking money at the
That was
wall.
another one.
so
Donna got offended.
so. Well, perhaps are we more surprised or yourself, Scott?
Yeah, I'm not overly surprised. If I'm honest, we've had a collapse in Labour vote. We've had a backlash against people aren't voting because they want to vote independent. They're voting because they're the best person to get rid of the Tory. So I think we've just been a bit of a victim of that tonight. We've never really had results like this in Portsmouth before. So I'm deflated. I mean, I've put my heart and soul into work in that ward. I don't believe truly it's a reflection on me. I mean, there must be some element of that. If we take stock, but realistically, I don't know what we could have done.
And I think if we look back at last year, I think there was a universal agreement. Frank Jonas was a fine man and a hard worker for the constituency, and sometimes the political tide turns against you, and it's irrespective of the work you've done. Sometimes swimming against that tide becomes impossible.
Yeah, I think there's an element of that. I mean, I'll be honest. I mean, did I think I could get beat? Yes. By that number, no. That's the number. The number shocked me a little bit, but actually, with it being a bigger number, realistically, it actually probably makes me feel a bit better. It shows you there is literally nothing else you could have done. You can't turn that tide. It's too big.
No, absolutely. I mean, I think 56% of the vote.
So it's like they're just about to get ready to declare St Jude.
I don't think anybody saw so.
No, absolutely not. We are where we are.
Obviously, on behalf of ourselves, thank you for always being a friend of the pod, and don't be a stranger.
No.
And probably time to take a little time to reflect and rest up, because it's a hard old business out there.
Well, I want to say, never say never.
Absolutely.
Never say never, and you never know. You might see me around these parts again.
Absolutely. Well, certainly hope so.
Bless you. Thanks,
Thank you,
guys.
Scott.
And I appreciate all your time and help as well. You've been great.
No,
for the last
you're
4 years. So.
You're welcome, and we appreciate you giving us your time on such a night. It's not an easy feeling.
I see you
Can't
two
be.
as not. I see you as just top chaps, to be honest. You do a lot.
You've been drinking?
No, I haven't actually. I wish I had. No, but in all seriousness, you two have, you give your time up to do local politics when, to be honest, not really people cover it in depth. You do. So actually, full credit to you two for once.
God bless you.
All right, I do a great job sometimes, but obviously not tonight.
Well,
anyway.
bless you.
Bless you. I'll hand this
Thank
back
you,
to
mate.
you, Simon.
Thank you, mate.
Cheers.
Take care.
So that was Scott Peter Harris sharing his views. Oh, looks like they're getting ready to declare Central South.
And Central South Sea is one where, again, this is the first one where we disagree, Simon. I mean, we're not having a great night collectively so far.
No.
I think we're 1 from 3.
No, but we've both been wrong.
And I think on this one, this is where I back the Lib Dem and you lamentably back the Labour candidate. So we'll see whether we'll see without the Tories or Pitt really majoring in Central South Sea. This one will be very interesting to give us a different complexion on how those wards in the south might go.
Any more candidates for Central South Sea, please?
Yep. So on the stage, awaiting the declaration are Susie Horton, the Liberal Democrat candidate, Alicia Denny, the Conservative candidate, and Josh Allen, the Labour candidate. Oh, here we go.
Hereby give notice that the number of votes recorded for each candidate for Central South Sea Ward is as follows. Joshua Anthony Allen, Labour Party, 1,551. Alicia Ruth Denny, the Conservative and Unionist Party, 214. Menno Byrne, Green Party, 178. Susanna Emma Elizabeth Horton, commonly known as Susie Horton, the Liberal Democrats, 1,816.
So Lib Dem Hong.
Lee Matthew Tyndall, Portsmouth Independent, Central South Sea Residents First, 86. 2 ballot papers were spoiled for voting for more than one candidate, and 10 for being unmarked or wholly void for uncertainty. The turnout was 32.79%, and I hereby that Susie Horton is duly elected to the Central South Sea Board.
Oh, well, there we go. You got that right. I got that wrong.
So some thank yous. First thank you is to the residents of Central South Sea Ward. It's my community, they are my neighbours, and I will continue to listen, be there for the small and the big stuff, and work all year round. My thanks also to everyone who has made this election possible. My thanks to the other candidates, especially Josh, because we have met each other a lot over the last few months. And I'm sure we will carry on seeing each other around about in the area. Thanks to the Lib Dem campaigns team for letting me run the campaign I wanted and dealing with my candidate-itis throughout the year. I don't like singling people out, but actually there's someone I want to give a shout out, someone who was there canvassing with me every week in November, wet November evenings, December, January, February, and that is Peter Williams. Thank you. Always there with a spare battery pack when I came from 12 hours of meetings and a sarcastic comment. Some people in the room know that the last 10 days have been pretty horrendous for me. A lot of stuff going on at a personal level. And when the chips are down, you really know who your friends are in those circumstances. And my Lib Dem family rallied around and supported me in a way that I don't think I will ever be able to repay. So thank you to all of you. And I'm looking forward to getting back to work next week.
Well, Simon, a very decent result for the people of Central South Sea.
Candidates are ready to Thomas Ward provisional result, please left stage.
Yeah.
And
not as close a run thing as I thought it was going to be.
No, and I think so. In terms of looking at that, I mean, it is clearly a terrible night for the Conservatives. That was one where I think quite a lot of smart money saw Labour taking that seat, and they've come up probably a 5 or 6% short. I don't know whether you've got the numbers there in front of you.
I was just trying to get them before I was going to craftily try and sneak away quickly for 10 seconds, but hang on a second.
But a very decent win for Susie Horton, and so
Yeah.
Again, it's looking like the Portsmouth Independence tonight, but I know Dems will be very happy at keeping. Am I right, Susie's deputy leader?
Yeah. Susie with 47%, Josh with 40%, Alicia with 6%, Mello for the Greens with 5%, and Lee Tyndall for the PIP with 2%.
And it is interesting when you look at that PIP vote. It's to be without wishing to be disrespectful. Lee's polled less than 100 votes, and was polling over 1,800 votes in the Hillsey. So there is an element of the Portsmouth Independents doing very well in the north of the city. At the moment, we've only got a couple of wards returned, perhaps not making the impact in the south they might have hoped for.
No, well, so far not, but who knows? I mean,
it's a night of surprises.
So far, they've gained 2 seats we didn't think they were going to gain.
Yeah.
So they've taken their 3 councillors from 3 to 5 at this point. We both predicted that they'd take Bullsgrove. So, you know, if
everybody we've spoken to
Yeah.
has predicted they'll take
Could I have the
Portsmouth.
candidates for the St Jude Ward?
We'll take them up to 6. Now, St Jude, we had this. This is another one where we had the Lib Dems retaining this. Am I right? No, St Jude is,
no, St Jude
is Graham Heaney.
is Graham Heaney.
Sorry,
I had
always
that
get-
as
I always get the
Graham
two
keeping it.
confused. We both had Graham getting home comfortably. So this is probably going to be the first test for Labour.
Any more candidates
In terms
for
of,
the St Jude Ward?
you know, their vote was strong in Central South Sea, but they haven't taken it. So we will have a little listen here and see whether we've got another one wrong or whether the Labour vote has held up. And
I, David
Graham
Williams,
returns.
being the
Here we
returning
go.
officer for the election for the St Jude Ward, hereby give notice that the number of votes recorded for each candidate is as follows. David Michael Chandler, the Conservative and Unionist Party, 400. Graham Philip Heaney, Labour Party, 1,288.
Ooh, this could be close.
Harry Bernard Malinder, the Green Party candidate, 201. Martin James Northern, Liberal Democrat, 1,058. Richard Philip Peckham, Portsmouth Independent Party, 283. 4 papers were spoiled for voting for more than one candidate, and 4 for being unmarked or void for uncertainty. The turnout was 35.17%, and I hereby declare that Graham Philip Heaney is duly elected the
So Graham Heaney retains his seat, but with a reduced majority, less than 200 votes between him and the Democrats. We'll just pause as I think Graham is stepping forward to address the crowd.
I'm going to say a few words. I'd like to thank obviously everybody for joining me for the second time after my question. And I'd also like to say a big thank you to all people in the Labour Party, some of which are not here tonight, who helped in the campaign. A lot of people do the stuff for me, a lot of people help me with canvassing, and without that, I wouldn't be able to do that. So I give a big, great debt of thanks to all the people in the party who have helped me out. I have a particular interest in transport issues. I hope I may be able to continue to act in my role as a councillor, and I hope that the Labour Group will continue to push the Democrat administration, if they do actually form the administration after tonight, to continue to do the best for the city and to be more ambitious for our city and the things we can do for our community. Thank you.
Well, there we go.
So how do you think the Labour Party will view that result? Relief or?
Well, I mean, 40% of the vote is still it is still a good old chunk of the electorate.
How close was the Lib Dem in second?
So Martin Northern was at 33%. So it's 1,288 votes versus 1,058.
No, so just over the 200. It's an 8% margin, which
Mhm.
is relatively comfortable, I think, without calling up spreadsheets from time gone by. I think that is a tightening of the majority there. But again, solid return. Nice for us to get one right. So I think we're now in credit. Well, one of us is in credit because I've got 3 right. You've only got 2. But I'm not going to gloat too soon because I think as the evening wears on, things might level up a touch.
Who knows? Who knows? So we'll see how things go. Should we just take a moment there to just grab our breath a minute? I'm trying to grab a drink quickly.
Yep, we will pause and be back as soon as another result comes through.
Okay, see you soon, folks. And we're back. Welcome. And while we were, what would we miss?
So Chris Atwell absolutely romped home in St Thomas. So I think we both predicted a Chris Atwell win.
We did.
Again, if my hearing was correct, his majority, I think he had polled over 50% of the vote and romped home basically unchallenged. So at the moment, based on the results we've had so far, it's really difficult to call whether is it Pip's night or is it the Lib Dems night?
Any more candidates for the Charles Dickens?
So here we go for Charles Dickens.
Well, and this is going to be a big one, obviously, with Labour. Cal, former Labour, expelled, friend of the pod, standing as an independent.
I, David Williams, being the
Here we
returning
go.
officer for the election to the Charles Dickens ward, hereby give notice that the number of votes recorded for each candidate is as follows. Yahya Chowdhury, Liberal Democrat, 337. Cal Owen Corkery, Independent, 910. Rahaj Ghosh, commonly known as Raj Ghosh, Labour Party, 780. Terence Christopher William Henderson, commonly known as Terry Henderson, the Conservative and Unionist Party, 301. Ian David McCulloch, the Green Party candidate, 104. 2 papers were spoiled for voting for more than one candidate. One for a mark by which the voter could be identified, and 8 for being unmarked or wholly void for uncertainty. The turnout was 18.08%, and I hereby declare that Cal Owen Corkery is duly elected to the Charles Dickens.
Now you will probably pick up the cheering in the hall. It seems to be a lot of cross-party support for Cal, who's been a hard-working councillor. We're just going to pause and hear what
You
Cal's got
told
to
me
say.
6 months ago I'd be standing here today and just been re-elected to the wards I live in, and I've had the privilege to represent on council for the past 4 years. I'll probably just about believe you. But if you told me I was standing here as an independent candidate, I would have questioned what you've been smoking and probably asked for some too. It's been quite a journey over that period, politically, socially, and personally. It's been the privilege of my life to represent the community I'm proud to call home. So it's an incredibly difficult experience to face having that ripped away from us in such an unfair and unjust way. But what doesn't defeat us can only make us stronger. And with the support of my family, friends, and partner, we've made it through, and here we now are. I have to admit, I was very uncertain about whether I should stand as an independent candidate. I weighed up all the pros and the cons, and I spoke to the people I trusted, and in the end, I made that difficult decision to stand as an independent. At that stage, I didn't know what the future would hold. I was sceptical that we even had a decent chance, but I was hopeful and also overwhelmed by the solidarity that we received from the community in which we represent. We were quickly able to build a strong, diverse and committed team of brilliant volunteers who carried out the campaign work and throughout the campaign as brilliantly as they could. The campaign we built from the bottom up has been the epitome of grassroots democracy in action. I'm so proud of everything the campaign team has achieved, and this is their victory. If there's 2 things I've learned from living in and representing our area, it's 1, our residents don't like injustice, and 2, they hate being told what to do. So here we are with the people of Portsea, Lambert, Buckland and Somerstown standing up to have their say. They've listened to our positive messaging about our track record of helping local people and responded decisively at the ballot box. I want to thank every single voter, volunteer, election worker and candidate for all you've done to ensure a successful election in challenging circumstances. Now I plan to get back to doing what I love, serving the people of our community as best as I possibly can. Thank you.
Well, it was close, Simon. I mean, the numbers in Charles Dickens always, always look a little bit tighter because again the turnout not great in Charles Dickens, and I think it was just a tick over 18%. But based on that small turnout, I'm sure Cal and a lot of his supporters who are in here this evening must be absolutely delighted.
Yeah, I think so. I think our audience couldn't have missed the excitement and joy at that result, and indeed that's mirrored in the comments. We're seeing that that's something being replicated from outside of this room. So again, both called going that way. So yeah, an interesting one for one of the comments. I won't use the exact words, but is pretty much saying that so far this is kind of like a sticking two fingers up at the two major parties kind of thing.
Well, and it does. I mean, obviously, Graham Heaney's been returned for Labour, but realistically, that is a seat that historically they had won comfortably. It had been in Labour's hands, and I know they were up against a strong independent, but apart from a brief sojourn with UKIP a few years ago, Charles Dickens has been a Labour ward through and through. So, and again, who knows, whether there will be a reunification of the Labour broad church in the interim. The people of Charles Dickens have made sure that they've got a hard-working candidate to represent them for the next 4 years.
It indeed looks like they're getting ready for the Eastleigh and Cranes Water. So that was one of the other. So that was a four-way hustings that we had. So we had 2/3 of the candidates on the ballot actually turn up to able to take part in our hustings. So we're just seeing them gather on the stage now, ready for that declaration.
And Mark Zimmer came to speak to us early in the year. I think he had just enjoyed his first foray into politics. I don't think I think it'd be fair to say his expectations of winning were not high, but we've just been delighted to be part of the democratic process.
I, David Williams, being
so here we go.
For the Eastleigh and Cranes Water Ward election, hereby give notice that the number of votes recorded for each candidate is as follows: Gordon Peter Candlish, Liberal Democrats, 1,385. Jenny Elizabeth Dodson, Portsmouth Independent Party, 93. Stephen Alexander Goris, the Conservative and Unionist Party, 881.
Wow.
Tamara Rowan, Green Party, 209. Jane Caroline Shepherd, Labour Party, 1,088. Mark Zimmer, Reform UK, 148. There were 3 spoiled papers for voting for more than one candidate, and 5 being unmarked or wholly void for uncertainty. The turnout was 39.31%, and I hereby declare that Gordon Peter Candlish is duly elected to the Eastleigh and Cranes Water Board.
So a Lib Dem gain for Eastleigh and Cranes Water.
Well, and I think if we were in any doubt whether it's been a bad night for the Conservatives, beaten badly into third by
Like one
Labour
of the speakers
in
before me,
ENC.
I intend to be brief. You are tired, I am tired. It is time to go home. But before I do, I would like to thank a few people. Firstly, obviously, the residents of Eastleigh and Cranes Water who chose to elect me. Secondly, the staff here and all the polling stations in my ward and indeed across the city who helped facilitate this. I would like to add a third and very personal thank you, and that is to my Lib Dem family. They have worked so hard in the last few weeks to be a winning team, and I have learned so much from each and every one of them. I really do appreciate the support that you have given me. But I do think I have to single out one person who has helped, who I have been helping for a couple of years, and that's Matthew Williamson. We've worked together in Eastern and Queenswater, and I'm very proud that last year he took the ward back to the Liberal Democrats. This year, we've added a second Liberal Democrat to the ward, and God willing, we'll come back next year and put a third one there as well. However, for me, the work now begins. I promise to be active, visible, caring, and competent, and I intend to deliver on that for the residents of Eastern and Queenswater. So thank you very much, and good night.
So, fighting talk there from Peter Candlish.
Candidates and agents, please, for provisional result for Fratton Ward, please. Fratton Ward.
So it's looking like a very good night for the Liberal Democrats, Simon.
Yeah, it is. It's an interesting reflection of kind of the city when you hear about all of the, you know, a lot of the murmurings kind of talk about you know, the easy kind of line is to be frustrated with the existing administration at a local level. That's been the Lib Dems for quite some years. Even though they don't, even though the city's been in no overall control, it's been a Lib Dem administration. But it seems that the residents of Portsmouth are quite happy with what the Lib Dems are doing and want them to carry on doing it.
Well, and I think, you know, there is an element of their vote has remained strong. It's clear that the Conservative vote is in a pretty sorry state this election. Again, I think it will have been a fair old while since the Conservatives were third in Eastern and Queenswater, and, you know, several hundred votes behind Labour in second. Now, I would think, in terms of, you know, Labour's hope, I think they'd look at that vote share in E&C and be quite pleased with it. Yeah, not really moving the dial in terms of councillors or winning seats.
No, but it's an interesting night. The you know, the administration seems to be being rewarded for what it's doing by the voters, and the largest opposition party is being I was going to say trounced, but it feels like a bit of a flippant term. And people are turning to Portsmouth Independence Party.
But again, it's this piece where Portsmouth Independence very strong in the north. All of the, you know, in the south, the Independence candidate is polling less than 100 votes. If you look at that result there, the Reform UK and Mark Zimmer, I think, got 150 compared to under 100 for the Portsmouth Independent. So making really strong gains in the north, principally in Conservative seats, not really making any impact. It's not south of the river, we don't have one, but so the interesting thing, I guess, as we look forward with the Lib Dem voting as strong as it has or appears to have been, does that bode well for GVJ in Milton? I think it possibly does, and I think, you know, there is the question. The Conservatives have already lost 3 of their 6 seats. How we would already predicted Paulsgrove would go, so it only leaves Cosham and Drayton and Farlington. And if the turnout and the vote share we've seen, it's really only DNF that's liable to get across the line for the Conservatives.
Yeah, possibly on kind of. I mean, to be fair, we both call DNF for the Conservatives because it's a safe ward for them. But does such a thing exist these days for them in Portsmouth?
I'm you know, perhaps DNF is the last bastion, because, you know, if we go back only 3 years, we would have said Paulsgrove. You know, you basically, when you were doing the count, you went 3 for Paulsgrove, 3 for Hilsey, 3 for Cosham, 3 for DNF. Right, there's 12 seats for the Conservatives, and then you wandered around to see where they might pick up some others. I think it's been quite a remarkable night.
Yeah, well, there's certainly been some surprises so far, but we've got some key wards left to hear from. So that's kind of that. Let's see kind of how that works. But
Have you been keeping count? I'm not. I can't. I've actually lost count of how many wards have declared and how many we've got to go.
So we've had Central Southsea, a Lib Dem hold. We've had Charles Dickens, independent gain. We've had Copner, a PIP gain. We've had Eastleigh and Craneswater, a Lib Dem gain. We've had Hillsey, a PIP gain. And we've had Nelson, a Lib hold, and St Thomas, a Lib Dem hold. So we've
And
got
St Jude,
St
Labour hold.
Jude, and St Jude, a Labour hold. So we've got Paulsgrove, Milton, Fratton, Drayton,
Cosham.
So Drayton and Farlington, Cosham and Baffin's left to call.
So, in terms of the prediction show and the first year for Ian to win it, it's basically all coming down to Baffin's, and the Conservatives have to completely overturn the trend of the night. The Lib Dem vote, which has been on fire, needs to collapse. I think if this was a boxing match, Simon, they'd probably stop it now, wouldn't they? It looks like you might have won the night again.
I don't know. You know, at the end of the day, us looking at it from afar and looking at previous performance and looking at how campaigns are going isn't necessarily a fair reflection. So our predictions, well, you know, we're quite happy to admit that they're not cast iron and certainly not 100% accurate. But I don't know. The night's not over. I would say the night's young, but it's not. It's like 2:05.
Is it 2:05?
Yeah.
God, it doesn't feel like it. It's the cut and thrust and the hurly-burly.
Yes.
And I guess the question will be, how quickly our final result is declared? Will they try and throw us out? Will it be a race against time to see if you can get all your kit packed up before they're ushering us away?
Lock me in. Yeah. Well, don't worry. I think the taking apart will be much quicker than the putting up. It's always easier to take it down than it is to assemble.
Now, the interesting thing on this one is going to be about timings. And, you know, Drayton and Farlington is usually quite a high turnout ward. So, you know, we'll have to look at the stats in more detail. But some of those turnouts have been pretty reasonable, in the sort of early to mid 30%, which doesn't sound a lot, but for those of you that follow turnouts in locals, it doesn't even look like my prediction of a 6% vote and drop in voter turnout is going to come true.
I haven't looked at the turnouts, to be honest, but
No.
yeah, it doesn't. It's an interesting night in the key wards. It's you know, voters do seem to have been turning up and casting their ballots. So you know, voter ID doesn't seem to have kind of made a dent. We'll have a look at the numbers obviously later and kind of see how that works. But yeah, it's the residents of Portsmouth continue to surprise us.
I suppose the other thing about this, with it already being 2 a.m, the urge to party might grasp some, but nowhere to go at this point.
Or if there is, I'm certainly not aware of it, and certainly won't want to be lugging around all the kit if we to do it now.
I don't think we'll make a big night of it. So I've got to time my Diet Coke intake just right, which is enough to keep us going until the end of the show, and then not so much that I overshoot and I'm still staring at the ceiling at 6 o'clock.
It's a delicate balance. So some of the comments that we've got here, big chunk of it is anyone but Tory. The surge in Labour support in Portsmouth was on the left, but Labour aren't on the left at the moment. Stephen Morgan might be worried. They've said in brackets, makes sense that anti-government votes go to PIP and Lib Dems, and both have strong candidates. Further comment, be a massive shock if Cons lost DNF. Was anyone bothering targeting it? So it's an interesting one. It's not really one that the other parties tend to actually put any muscle in, any kind of serious muscle into. It's you have to kind of target your resources appropriately. So some places you do, and some places, some places you don't.
You don't, and I wonder tomorrow morning whether if this is replicated across the UK, there could be a rather shamefaced Rishi Sunak on tomorrow's breakfast news.
Well, we're not quite in a cocoon here, but we haven't been paying attention to what's happening nationwide.
No.
So it depends on how that goes. However it goes, governments of the day would tend to say, well, we're bound to get a kicking in the middle of an electoral term. That's what happens. And that sort of thing will be the case. Then, of course, after tomorrow, the key thing will be how long before the general really is kind of how, parties will start mobilizing their troops, as it were, to get ready for a general election, whenever that we call.
Definitely going to happen next year. I don't think any party was very keen on the December election, which I think is the last time it can be, as obviously slogging out and campaigning during the kind of the long
Please,
dark
would the
months.
candidates for the Milton ward join the...
Wow, this was the one we thought would come last.
That's a turn up for the books. Didn't expect that.
We were expecting recounts and everything. Are you feeling more confident, Simon?
I don't want to say now. I feel like I don't know whether my predictions have been a curse or a benefit to people. So,
well, you went against Susie, cast her aside. I backed her all the way. I think that's not fair, but I'm gonna. Well, I'm surprised it's come this early. I thought this one was going to be. I thought this was going to be down to single figure votes.
I, David Williams, being returning officer for the election to the Milton ward, hereby give notice that the number of votes recorded for each candidate is as follows. Sarah Louise Schilling Gilbert, the Green Party candidate, 176. Gemma Margaret Hammond, Portsmouth Independent, putting Milton first, 67. Paula Ann Savage, the Labour Party, 1,552. Jack Smith, the Conservative and Unionist Party, 252. Robert Gerald Vernon Jackson, Liberal Democrats, 1,874.
Well,
Rachel Kate Zimmer, Reform UK, 96.
Well,
one paper was spoiled for voting for more than one candidate. I don't think we've got a problem. Okay, let's... One paper was spoiled for voting for more than one candidate, and 6 was spoiled for being unmarked or wholly void for uncertainty. The turnout was 38.16%, and I hereby declare that Robert Vernon Jackson is duly elected to the Milton ward.
Well, it is turned to a bumper night for the Lib Dems, Simon.
Yes, it's Christmas has all come at once.
To all the wonderful Lib Dem family who work so wonderfully hard in Milton and across the city, to the officers of the council, and to the councillors who work so hard, to Kimberly and Steve, my ward colleagues, but to all the team at the council. I think the results are interesting. We now know pretty much all the results, and that means that the Lib Dems have won half the seats in the city, 50%. So we put our record to the people of the city. We put our ambitious plans to the people of the city. And the people of the city voted for the Lib Dems in droves. We've won 7 seats. The Conservatives won, Labour 2. And Portsmouth Independent, 3. And Cal, a very welcome returner to the council, 1. So this is a resounding night for the Lib Dems in Portsmouth. A real endorsement for our ambition for the city and the way in which we deliver it. So my thanks to everybody. This is a real mandate for the Lib Dems to continue our work, putting Portsmouth first. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
And now, a very interesting speech, and you may not have picked that up. I think Gerald's just declared all 14 results, even though 4 of them haven't been called yet.
Well, he's saying where he thinks it's going to go. He can't know at this point what the results of the
Yeah.
others are, but yeah.
Yeah, possibly. So, yeah, it is turning into a very good night. I think, last year Paula Ann Savage ran Steve Pitt to within 38 votes, but from memory there, Simon, it was 250, so a good 15% margin for Gerald.
Yeah, so it's certainly not the way I called it. I thought that was going the other way, to be honest with you.
I think we both did.
So yeah, that's and we both thought that was going to be one of the last ones to be, and we're joined again by Rachel and Mark. Are they just off for the evening? There's
So bless you both, and
Thank you, guys.
and yeah. So I don't want to cause any strife, but Mark, 50 odd votes more than your wife. Any comment on that?
No, I don't think I'm silly, do you?
No, absolutely not. So bless you both, and
Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you very much. You have a lovely evening.
Take care.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you.
Take care.
So yeah, so it's an interesting evening. Interesting indeed. Looks like they're ready to get another one.
For the Fratton Ward on the stage, please.
Now again, now interesting there. Obviously, Gerald with his crystal ball said the Conservatives had won, I think, 2 seats. So if he has got it spot on, then Pip will have won Paulsgrove. The Conservatives would have won Cosham and Drayton and Farlington, and this looks like this one's going to be a resounding win for the lovely Dave Ashmore.
Well, that's certainly the way we predicted it. Let's see.
And it's interesting how the noise is dying down as all the counting is done.
Yes, and you start to see people leaving as well. So.
Fratton Ward hereby give notice that the number of votes recorded for each candidate is as follows: Samet Alves, the Green Party candidate, 139. David Colby Ashmore, commonly known as Dave Ashmore, Liberal Democrats, 1,051. Amy Zanette Gwithia, Labour Party, 840. Christopher Allen Pickett, commonly known as Chris Pickett, Trade Unionist and Socialist Coalition, 24. Peter Angus Ross, the Conservative and Unionist Party, 248. Jacob Lee Short, Portsmouth Independents, putting Fratton residents first, 457.
Oh, what a
2 papers were spoiled for voting for more than one candidate, 1 for a mark by which a voter could be identified, and 8 for being unmarked or void for uncertainty. The turnout was 26.44%, and I hereby declare Dave Ashmore duly elected to the Fratton Ward. Thank you.
And another great result for the Lib Dems, and a great result for Jacob Short there. 400 votes in one of the Southern Wards. Best performance of the Pip in the South.
Mm-hmm.
And just to say thank you to everyone who's been doing the count and everyone who's been working through the night. Thank you to the people of Fratton, both those who voted for me and those who didn't. It's good to come out and participated, and yeah, I've really been made to work hard. So thank you to all the candidates as well for putting your head above the precipice. It's not always easy. And thank you, a massive big thank you. No one ever does this alone. So thank you to everyone who's helped come and knock doors with me, deliver leaflets for me, design the stuff for me. Even when I've been low down, people encouraging me to get up and go out and do it. And thank you very much, everyone. Thank you.
So the voters of Fratton deciding yet again they want more of Ashmore.
Yes, well, everybody wants more Dave Ashmore. I think it's something that we universally agree on. So, just three to go by my reckoning. Paulsgrove, Arlington.
And then Baffins.
4 to go. The hall is starting to thin out. It's starting to get quiet here. I think they've turned the heating off. They're trying to send us a message, or perhaps it's just to keep everybody awake. But hopefully, as our voices have soothed you during the night, those of you that are still awake and watching, we appreciate. For those of you who we have gently lulled to sleep, well, thanks for staying this far.
Indeed, indeed. So yes, the
candidates for Drayton and Farlington.
oh, here we go. Must admit, thought this was going to be one of the first ones called.
Yes, I mean, usually has a very high turnout though, doesn't it? Usually, I think it's one of the highest turnouts in the city. Usually, 40% plus. Hannah Brent, formerly Hannah Hockaday, moved to Drayton and Farlington, having been the Cosham Ward Councillor last year, losing out to Asghar Shah. I know Hannah would have
Any more
hoped.
candidates for the Drayton and Farlington ward?
So it's the final call for candidates. Let's have a look at the number and see.
I, David Williams, being the returning officer for the election to the Drayton and Farlington ward, hereby give notice that the number of votes recorded for each candidate is as follows. Richard James Adair, Liberal Democrat, 620. Hannah Brent, the Conservative Party candidate, 1,654. Jamie Angela Custerson, Portsmouth Independents, Drayton and Farlington First, 280. Mervyn Peter Harvey, the Green Party candidate, 224. Pooja Mishra Jha, Labour Party, 693. There were 9 ballot papers spoiled for being unmarked or wholly void for uncertainty. The turnout was 33.11%, and I hereby declare Hannah Brent duly elected to the Drayton and Farlington ward. Thank you.
Thank you. As everyone said this evening, I'll keep it quite short because everyone wants to get home to bed. But thank you so much to the Drayton Ward Committee for selecting me to stand in Farlington this year, and to all the residents of Drayton and Farlington for putting your confidence and trusting me to represent you. It's really good to be. It's been a difficult year this year, and to everyone that standed in the elections, congratulations, because it's really tough, and colleagues and my dear friends, you will come back stronger. Just a couple more thanks. Thank you to everyone that's worked today on polling stations and the counting agents. Hopefully we'll be able to go home soon. And from the bottom of my heart, my friends and family, I've done it without you. To my Conservative colleagues, you have been fantastic, and wholeheartedly to Robert. No, I just want a massive thank you. He's standing down from this year, but I wouldn't be here without you. From 10 years ago, our conversations at work, you got me into into politics, so thank you, Rob. And we all will miss you dearly, but I will too. Thank you.
Finally, something to cheer about, Conservative chums. We're just waiting for the numbers to come up, but I think it was still about 50%. Drayton and Farlington historically been over 60 for the Conservatives, so a decent win.
Sorry, one second, Ian. Sorry.
No worries.
Sorry about that.
No worries at all. So they've just called Cosham Ward, so down to the final 3. And this is the one where if Gerald and his crystal ball is right, this might be a set for the Conservatives. We thought this one might be tight, but I think we had Mason just scraping over the line.
Candidates for the Caution Ward, please.
Yeah, so this will be interesting to see as to what's happened to the Labour vote.
I, David Williams, being the returning officer for the election to the Caution Ward, hereby give notice that the number of votes recorded for each candidate is as follows. David Charles Paul Fuller, Liberal Democrats, 200. Lee Michael Chris John Mason, the Conservative Party candidate, 1,078. Thomas Robert Olds, commonly known as Tom Olds, the Portsmouth Independents, putting Caution first, 208. Mary Vallely, Labour Party, 1,362.
Wow.
Veronica Goodwin Wagner, National Health Action Party, 86. 4 papers were spoiled for voting for one candidate, and 22 for being unmarked or wholly void for uncertainty. The turnout was 20%. I hereby declare that Mary Vallely is duly elected to the Caution Ward. Thank you.
Well, I guess that will be Labour's bright star in this evening's results. Let's hear what Mary has to say.
So, many thanks to the returning officers and staff in the polling stations as well. Really did well and made it welcome. I'd particularly like to thank my hard-working team and ward friends and supporters who have turned out in all weathers to leaflet and meet local residents. I've had 3 cracked bridges recently, so I've really been very lucky in my support. Thank you all. My long-standing friends too, who have helped me out at short notice and have picked me up when I've been it, and I've come from Guildford and all over the place to help me out. Thank you so much. Particular thanks to Councillor Shah, who really has done all the groundwork last year and the year before. Really like to thank Jonathan for translating all my dyslexia information that I couldn't put onto the app. And that was a big job. Thank you to Ryan and Eloise. Eloise did all the flats for me because with broken ribs I couldn't walk down the stairs, which was brilliant. And Sally, who was a stalwart and came out with me all the time. Thank you, Sally. I'd like to add another strong voice to the City Council to make Caution and Wimmering a better place for our residents to live, work and play in. I'd like to make sure that your voice is heard, so thank you for the residents who voted for me. Our residents deserve a chance to live rewarding and meaningful lives. We want a fair Portsmouth for all, and together, everybody, we can do it. Thank you.
So another truly disastrous result for the Conservatives there. So effectively that is 6 seats to 1. And with only, well, with Paulsgrove to come, and unless we've got that one hideously wrong, with Baffin still to come, it's looking like, with the way the vote has been going, that Baffins will go stay in Lib Dem and Paulsgrove will go Pip. So we look at that as a whole: Pip with +3, Lib Dems with +1, Labour staying the same, Independent +1, and a disaster for the Conservatives.
Yeah, it's really not been a night, is it? It's it's not gone very well for the Conservatives. It's there've been the shock results, as you said, with Hilsey and Copner. So yeah, it's this is the opposite of kind of the riding high that they had a couple of years ago. Last year, have a very good year. This year, obviously, that's been repeated. What that means for for the Conservatives locally, and what that means the city going forward. I mean, just starting to look at the arithmetic on the council. That's Pippa becoming quite a sizable force then on the council.
Well, if my maths are correct, I think Pip will end the night with another 3 councillors. They had 3, there'll be 6 in the Pip group. There are another 3 independents which are not aligned to Pip. So there's now 9 out of 42 candidates are sitting under an independent banner.
Yeah, it's quite a thing. It's an interesting thing because quite often we talk about and we've chucked around the where the first past the post kind of forces people into ungodly internal coalitions so that they have large enough parties to actually form administrations. But that now doesn't seem to be the norm in local politics of late. You talking about the Isle of Wight earlier on. And there's certain other there are other councils across the south that are coalitions of rainbow coalitions effectively of different parties. So what does that mean for an administration that wants to run a no overall control as a minority administration? Does that mean that they now need to start sharing some of that power with some of these much now larger other parties? Who knows?
Well, and I think that's where again, if we look at it through the lens of where we'll end up, plus or minus a couple of seats, there's effectively going to be 3 groups as sort of and interesting to see where we end up in terms of numbers of seats, because I probably end up with similar numbers of seats. So here we are for Paulsgrove, which we think is going to be a resounding
pip hooray.
Pip hooray indeed. And the hall is starting to thin out. Again, we'll probably get people tapping their watches as soon as the last result is declared. And again, we thought Paulsgrove usually, turnout had historically been very low. The Madgwick effect, which got it up into the mid-30s. Be interested to see what the turnout is this time. But this was one I thought would have been declared early. So.
Yeah, me too. I thought this would have been much earlier in the evening.
Can't be a shock. Let's listen.
For the election to the Paulsgrove ward, hereby give notice that the number of votes recorded for each candidate is as follows. Catherine Helena Cole, Liberal Democrats, 136. Christopher Dye, commonly known as Chris Dye, Portsmouth Independents, putting Paulsgrove first, 1,279. Charles Peter Douglas, commonly known as Charlie Douglas, the Conservative Party candidate,
I ain't going to be taking any bets off you two.
So where we've got a hecker. We said this one would be a big win.
425.
Yeah, that's probably about as you've got right.
Outrageous. We've just been joined by Simon Bosher from the Conservatives, who's quite rightly pointing out that our predictions this year weren't exactly on the money.
Well, I think it depends how you.
I spent an hour of my life listening to your predictions.
Well, and again, it's the charge is kept low, so you haven't wasted a lot of money.
It's free, but
some say it's overpriced at that price. So
I'm messing with the chest.
Oh,
no worries.
It's not been a good evening for us at all.
No, and Scott,
it's probably worse than we sort of anticipated. We thought there was 2 or 3 seats, but some of the majorities that have been coming through have been
pretty stark, to say the least.
Yeah.
And Scott came and spoke to us earlier, and his view was, well, when you've lost by that margin, that's got to be more than just about you. It feels like a reflection of the wider government and position.
When you look particularly at what has happened with the PIP party, it's very much, I think, a protest vote. It's a lot of it's different than the Conservative vote.
Mm.
So we've actually seen, so generally I think it's one of those of none of the above, but I'm certainly not going to vote for Conservative. And certainly on the doorstep we were picking up a lot of people saying, I'm just not going to go and vote this time, or I'm going to give the independent a chance. So some of the majorities were pretty stark, but it's anticipating a bigger leap with Labour, to be quite honest. Cotton's always going to be a fight with Labour, but I haven't really seen it materialise anywhere else in the city. I think it might do.
Yeah, I mean, we've looked at it, and it's that, the Conservatives have had a terrible night. The Lib Dems winning 7 seats, I think, which is how it looks like it's going to end, is probably much better than they hoped for. I know at the start of the night when we spoke, we were chatting to some PIP people, they thought they were going to get 2 out of 3. So I think they've been surprised at the margins that they've got. But Labour not really moved the dial, and I guess it'll be interesting to see what happens in council now, where, in terms of we think there's going to be 9 independent candidates out of 40 in the council when it meets.
Which is for Portsmouth is extremely unusual.
Mm.
You have to go back a very, very long way to find an elected independent. Going all the way back to the guy who does for Peter Ashley.
Yep.
Yeah, Peter Ashley is probably the last independent who was regularly getting elected. It'll be interesting to see whether they can actually sustain this going forward, or whether a general election will reshape that.
Well, and it's interesting that when you look south of the city, Jacob Short worked very hard for Pip in Fratton, got 400 votes a dent there. But when you look at a lot of the other wards, particularly in the south where there's Libs, they're polling 100 votes. So, it is interesting that there is that tension between Pip and the Conservatives, as it's to that seems to be where they're taking the majority share.
Well, onwards and upwards, we will take it on the chin, dust ourselves down, and we will go again.
Yeah.
Next time round, it's probably going to be a general election, I would imagine. So it'll be an interesting scenario how we go forward. I would imagine that George Matchwick will be eyeing up standing for Parliament, and what impact that might have particularly in Portsmouth North with independent and a bit of a resurgent Labour. So
yeah, it'd be an interesting. So your thoughts are that you think that the PM will go for a general the same time as the locals next year?
That's the sort of rumours that I'm hearing, that we might see the two together. The one that might get pushed back would be the Police and Crime Commissioner elections, so that we're not doing all 3 on the same day.
Right.
I've been here when we've done 3 counts all on the same day.
Oh, crikey.
Same days.
Yes. Yeah.
Into Friday.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's going to be stretching it a bit. So it may well be that we might see the locals in the general election at the same time, and maybe the Police and Crime Commission elections pushed back to the autumn time or something.
Interesting.
Like that. We'll see how it plays out.
Yeah, to be fair, if they're doing all 3 at once, we're not covering it live. We'll have to keep our powder dry for that one.
Exactly.
Spoil.
Right.
Lovely. Thanks.
Thank you for giving us your time, Simon.
Take care. So just Baffins to come. Now.
Oh, hello. We're joined by Lee Mason.
Lee.
Hello.
I'm so excited when I heard your prediction yesterday. You cheered me up.
So Lee, I think we're commiserations. I don't think we can dress it up. It's been a horror night for the Conservatives.
Yeah, I think it has to be nationally, but we'll rebuild, we'll get back. So
time to take stock now and and perhaps give yourself a bit of a
Trying
break.
to sleep, put my feet up, have a little bit of a rest. It's been you know yourself, it's a strenuous
Yeah,
thing. Sam.
it's not easy either way.
Yeah.
If you're going to do it and go for it, it's a lot of work.
And you have the hill as well.
Yeah.
They don't appreciate that when anyone else says, "Oh, it's so hard." It's like, no, try doing the hill. Then you know hard.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for your service, Lee, and
No, thank
commiserations tonight, and enjoy the rest, I think.
No, thank you for your prediction yesterday, even if it didn't work.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, we both backed you. So yeah, we've not had our greatest night of
It
predictions.
seems like everybody's unhappy with our predictions, whichever way they went.
Yeah.
I took it personally good because you're both my residents. Well, were my residents, not anymore.
Yeah.
So I did take it well. But thank you very much for being nice to me
Well,
and
thank you anyway.
hopefully see you again. in the
Yeah,
future.
you know,
Yeah.
you're
See
always
you again
welcome.
soon.
Thank you, Lee. Take care.
Have a good night. So we've got some other. Is that Councillor Shah hovering around wanting to join us, or is that, or is it? Hello, mate. It's Charlie. Hello.
Hello,
just
Charlie.
simply a thank you for everything you guys do. I mean, the hustings have been
Oh,
amazing
bless you.
just to watch this year, and you know, it's great that you're here at the count. So
Thank you, Charlie.
What you do for local democracy, we appreciate it.
Well,
So,
we try our little bit.
Thank you. So a tough night to be a Conservative, but yeah, there's been many thoughts of we go again next time.
Yeah, we go again next. You know, democracy is an itch, as people say. But, yeah.
I've never heard that one. Okay.
It's been rough, but we deal with it. We rebuild.
Yeah.
So, but thank you guys.
No, no.
Cheers,
Thank you very
Charlie.
much. Thank you for putting yourself out there. Thank you, mate.
Thank you.
So, yeah. Mm.
So now it almost feels like it's the whole thing is being dismantled around us, but I'm certain we didn't miss.
We've got Shah back again.
We've got Shah. Shah, good
Hey,
evening.
Shah.
Good evening. Good evening.
So you must be delighted with that result in Cosham.
To be honest with you, yes, very. But I was expecting, as I did say,
Mhm.
your prediction was obviously what was the prediction.
Don't worry, we're getting you. The theme of the night is your predictions were rubbish, guys.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, what I was expecting was that, but I didn't expect actually that much majority. That one means around 300
Mhm.
margin, which is I was expecting maybe about 50 up and down.
Mhm.
Well, I think, I mean, let's look at it, Shah. I don't think anybody would have predicted, you know, when you look at wards like Hillsby, you know, the collapse of, and Copner, the collapse of the Conservative vote there. It feels that, you know, from that part of the city, the you know, Conservative vote hasn't held up. In terms of Labour as a whole, how would you sum up this evening? You know, losses and gains.
No, I would say happy, especially with Graham Heaney. He did held the seat, and we gained in Cosham. So I think we gained.
Yep.
We didn't lose.
You lost Charles Dickens to.
Charles Dickens, you can say. Oh no.
You think Cal might still be a Labour man at heart?
He might not be a Labour, obviously, but
Yep.
still, I won't say that we lost it.
But Cosham becoming a Labour stronghold now, perhaps.
Actually, the next year I was just chatting with my colleague, and the next year again, we got that one.
So you're calling Cosham to go fully red next year?
Fully red, yes. And Cosham, we are not going to stay there. We will be spreading around now, and we'll go towards maybe Portsmouth, Hillsey, and a bit further.
Wow, it's
So interested to see the change in tides then of from the north, because there's quite a north-south dynamic in the city, and actually how the politics kind of seems to going up until you know, to be fair, up until your success, Labour hadn't recently had that much joy in the north of the city. You see that as a turnaround of things to come?
I would say actually that is a community work. Yes, Labour, yes, and obviously nationally Labour is doing better. But that's community work. Wherever you do community work, you will win. Wherever, and I think there is no ward I can think of that belongs to one party. You can win if you do work. And I think that culture needs to be changed, and it is changing now. You work, you win. If you don't work, you will go.
Mhm.
An interesting perspective, and it's been a night of some shocks. I think one of the biggest shocks is that Baffins hasn't declared, which we thought that would come a bit earlier, unless it did get declared and we missed it. But I don't think we have.
I think Baffin is still there.
Yeah, they'd have chucked us out by now. So yeah, all to that one to play for, but an interesting night, and we'll see kind of how that leaves the shape of the council and what happens things to come. Oh.
Here we are. So we're down to the final ward.
But yeah, thank you very much for coming and
Thank you,
joining us
Charles.
tonight, and our best to Mary. Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you. Good night.
Cheers, Charles.
Cheers, man. I'm sorry. I'm trying to catch Gerald Vernon Jackson's eye. That cold is really paying havoc. I'm going to have to bail for a pee in a minute again.
Oh,
We've got Mazzy and we've got Russell. Russell, sorry I didn't get to speak to you. Sorry. I was mid-sentence, so carefully about what I was saying. Oh, not at all. We have Mike if you want to speak.
You don't want me to be on the mic. I'm tired. I'm tired of my
Go on.
content.
Go on, Russell.
Shall we just say
I don't think
that you're a very happy pitster?
I think it's fair to say that
Careful, sitting here.
I think it's very fair to say that your predictions not very good, are they?
Oh, nobody cites our prediction. Because,
your predictions are way out. I mean, come on, guys.
I take it on the fact that we've been hammered by every party over our predictions that they must have been good.
Yeah,
So-
I think the thing is, all I'm going to say is, if you spent 10 minutes to walk around Hillsey, you would have not have predicted what you predicted. That's
Well,
all I'm going to say.
Okay.
And so in future, please do that.
Okay.
It's quite a large geography for us to.
Yeah. If we did that in every ward.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah. What are you trying to say?
No, I'm saying walking. Walking's good for you.
I think we've
Wow.
been fat shamed by Pitt.
Yeah. Wow. That's. I mean, I could do with getting my step count up, but that's one way to do it. But
Pack it in.
no, you're fine. It's good.
Anyway, I'll leave you to it.
No,
Thank you,
but
Russell.
I'll leave
good
you
night
to
for
it.
you guys. Well done.
Yeah. See you later.
Thank you.
Well,
So there we go.
More walking.
Yet another of our listeners unhappy with our predictions.
I'm actually quite pleased that everyone's unhappy.
We've united them in.
Guys did predictions, as you've always done.
Yeah.
As you have done the last years in Portsmouth.
Yeah.
And I think it's a great platform to actually learn about politics in Portsmouth through your podcast.
Well, that's in our own humble way. That's what we try to do.
Yeah.
We obviously don't have a crystal ball, and
yeah,
and really read a lot of that wrong. But I'm quite happy with the things I got wrong.
Yeah. No, to be honest, it's every year it's going to come down to the final ward, and if the Conservatives have won Baffins, I think I'll eat my rucksack. So it's looking like. This is the tipping. But yeah, no, I'm. So again, it looks like an interesting evening all round. Shah delighted with the resulting costume. Again, it was one where it's another one we got wrong, where we thought that Lee would get over the line, but
Could have chatted to me about it.
well, I think to be honest, Mazzy,
a lot of them were tight, and that's the hard thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the thing is that, again, and we've been chatting, so some of the Conservatives have been gracious enough to come and talk to us. And I think whilst they were nervous, I thought, they said they thought that they might lose 2 or 3. I don't think they saw the vote collapsing in the way that it has done pretty much across the board. If you look at it, it's only Drayton and Farlington that have, they've retained. And even there, the vote share was down best part of 20%. So, yeah, it's been a tough gig. Never easy being a Conservative.
Oh, it's not easy being blue.
Yep, it's
Especially
not
not
easy.
in this climate.
No, no, no. So
Let me not say anything that'll get me in trouble.
no. I think the voters of Portsmouth have probably said plenty this evening. So, but
Yeah, it's been. I haven't had the time to reflect because I've just been trying to be in the moment. So if you ask me about the last half an hour, my brain's like,
Yeah.
Well,
it's going to be interesting because there are going to be 9 independents. I haven't done all the sums, but I think it's probably only going to be down to 10 or 11 Conservatives, 6 or 7 Labour, and I think the Lib Dems might be up around the 17-18 mark. So I think if the Lib Dems replicated this next year, there is that.
They might actually be able to
that
take a
never
majority.
unhold of. And here we are.
Here we
Final
go.
word to declare.
I get to be part of this last one, guys.
Yeah.
Well, there we
It's
go.
exciting.
Coming off the stage, I'd like to thank all the staff who've been involved, not just tonight, but in the match but also, and I particularly like to thank Ian and his team for the wonderful job that they have done. I, David Williams, being the returning officer for the Elections Ward, hereby give notice that the number of votes recorded for each candidate is as follows. Mark Farwell, Labour Party, 488. Paul Anthony Oakley Creek, Portsmouth Independents, putting Bathings residents first, 740. Leonie Jane Oliver, Liberal Democrat, 1,475. Robert Edmund Simmons, commonly known as Bob Simmons, the Green Party candidate, 152. Joseph Michael Standen, commonly known as Joe Standen, the Conservative Party candidate, 602. There were 5 papers spoiled for voting for more than one.
And we have a Gerald. Thanks, Mazzy.
The turnout was 31.
Hello, Gerald. Have you come to tell us how rubbish our predictions are?
I didn't know what were your predictions.
They were rubbish.
They were rubbish.
No, did you predict that we would win more seats?
No.
Why not?
Well, but we looked at the way that the things at the time were running, and well, you've got to be delighted with this evening, haven't you?
Well, it went exactly to what we thought would happen.
Ah, so
It's that cunning plan.
No, every seat for all parties went exactly as we expected. So
So-
there are no surprises tonight to anybody.
interesting.
Interesting.
So
Should get you to do the predictions next year. then.
Well, what happened is we knew the Conservatives would lose 5 of their 6 seats.
Mhm.
Everybody knew that. We knew they'd only hold Drayton and Farlington. We knew that Pitt would pick up 3.
Mhm.
We knew Cal would win. The only issue was between Lib Dems and Labour in the south of the city because we knew Mary would win in Cosham.
Mhm.
So the things in the south of the city were quite tight between us and Labour. But in every seat that we were fighting hard, we managed to meet them.
And I think that's where we were looking at the national picture and Labour's resurgence, and
Yeah.
it looks like your intelligence is better than most, because at the start of the evening, we spoke to a PIP candidate who won, and they were only confident of 2 of 3. So yeah, it looks like they've had a good night.
Well, the 3 that they won were the 3 that George Magic said they'd win.
And I think George was perhaps more bullish, as it was less so. So I guess the real question is, if we look ahead to next year, is there a chance that is your machine that far on that you can make the 22?
No.
No.
Things build over time. The campaigns are dynamic. Our expectation 3 or 4 months ago was we were going to get sorted. But we managed to turn that round substantially, and that produced the result we had tonight. We thought that the Labour Party would be riding high and that they would do really, really well, and we'd be the people who suffered.
but they've managed to do great internal damage to themselves, and that's helped us a great deal.
It's an interesting one because I mean, certainly from the from an outside view, it looks like they were quite heavily campaigning in Central Southsea and quite heavily campaigning in Milton.
Absolutely targeted by Susie
yeah.
and myself, and they failed twice.
But it wasn't. What I thought was quite interesting in the result was that it wasn't that narrowing of the result that we saw kind of last year. If anything, actually, it was a pulling away of that.
Yeah, Susie won by over 300 in a ward that we lost the year before by 400. So 700 change in majority. Huge endorsement of what Susie does.
Yeah.
And would you say that your larger majority was because you're more palatable than Steve, or would you attribute it to something else?
I think that we had to work really hard this year, and we've done an enormous amount of work, way more canvassing than we've done in the last few years, and that paid off.
But a lot of your candidates mentioned a lot about the about the Lib Dem family and about the support around that. Do you put that down to a winning dynamic of it?
I think because we're a small team, we work hard and we support each other really well. And it really is sort of a family. And sometimes families have rows.
Well, tell us about that.
And families often have rows. Mine do. I'm sure yours does, Simon.
Yeah, all the time.
At Christmas, we have a rule that says we cannot have Christmas on our own at the family. We always have to have somebody invited who isn't family so that we behave.
Okay.
But in the same way,
yeah.
The Lib Dem family here in Portsmouth works really, really hard. And we
Good to
like
see.
having people coming from outside to help us as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we are really proud of what we do in Portsmouth.
Fantastic. We've got an excitable campaigner here now trying to gather you down the front for a photo, I think. So thank you very much, Gerald. Thank you.
So I think. Hello, Simon.
It's Joe.
Simon.
Joe. No worries, Joe. Hard luck there.
Unfortunately, it didn't come through.
No.
The prediction did not come through.
And to be fair, every party has hammered us on our predictions, Joe. So
take your microphone and have a go at us.
No, I'm not taking a go at you at all. No,
it's fine.
No, it's been a good fight, and congratulations to Leonie for winning in Baffins as well. It was really hotly contested ward here. And yeah, well done to her, and I hope she does well on the council, and we'll be back next year. 100%.
Marvellous.
Okay.
Thank you,
See
Joe.
you
And can we put you down for the hustings next year?
Absolutely. On there.
Fantastic. Good to see you there.
Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Take
Cheers,
care.
guys.
All right. Thank you, mate.
Thanks very much.
Right. Well, that's.
I think we've given Joe the final word. So we've had the leader of the council there, who's obviously delighted, confident in their prediction. They did better than we did, and Joe, the Conservative voice there of we go again next year, which I think is really the crumb of comfort that they can take out.
We do have a cutting word from Naz. Did you just...
I don't mind. Are you live?
Yeah.
Yes, we are, Naz. Yeah,
Well,
we've been live all the way through.
Fantastic night for the Lib Dems. A little bit of excitement when.
Do you want to?
Yeah, a fantastic night for the Lib Dems. A exciting count, touch and go at times, but what is clear is that the people of Portsmouth have rejected the Conservatives and Labour Party and their agenda, and have endorsed the Lib Dems' ambitious plan for the future.
And we asked Gerald the question about next year. Could you get to the magic 22? Are you feeling more optimistic?
No political party exists to not be in power. So yes, I think we can. I think the numbers add up. I think if we continue our positive campaigning, that people will back us.
So I think that that draws our
the gauntlet is thrown.
Absolutely. So thank you, Naz.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Cheers,
Thank you very much.
And I think, Simon, that probably draws our evening to the end.
It does indeed.
So thanks to everybody who stayed on.
Yeah. Thank you for following along and listening, and listening because obviously we couldn't get the video to work. But thanks. You've been listening to the Pompey Politics podcast.
I've been Ian Tiny Morris.
And I've been Simon Sansbury. And I can't find the button to turn it off.